So let's just kick it off, mate. You know what the truth is? It is telling me that my account has been locked. So this is a Facebook thing, guys. So firstly, Janusz, welcome back. What we'll do, I don't know, look, if we're live in the community, guys, how are you doing? If we're not, it's because Facebook security is absolutely beyond a joke. Apparently I've done something suspicious with my own account and now they've blocked me out. So either way, we'll post this into the group afterwards. If you guys are joining us, thank you so much. If you do get a chance to watch this, please do. I'm super excited. Firstly, let's welcome back Janusz. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself, socials, where people can find you? Go for it, just a quick little pump of yourself.
Great. So good to be here again with you, Steve. Janusz Stabick. I'm a coach, advisor, managing partner of an organization based in the UK called the Grow Your Digital Agency Initiative. We help agencies with growth. We sit on boards, we provide kind of coaching and mentoring services with agency leaders globally, and we run coaching programs for partners like Google get us to help agencies globally with growth, and whatever growth means, right? Headcount growth, revenue growth, new products and services, scaling, exit. All of our advisors are ex-agency owners themselves who've all been there and done it and now provide insightful, concise, non-business schooly type advice to agency leaders.
Awesome. So perfect. I mean, we've discussed stuff with you before in the community. You're a great resource for us. Obviously, with a community full of digital agency owners who are looking to grow, it's always great to talk to people like you, particularly about today's topic. So we're talking about gross margin, which is, when you sent it through, I was like, that's quite cuts to the bone a little bit and is a little bit financial. But I think you've got a good reason for discussing it, and I think it's a winning reason. So why don't you go ahead and explain to us why we're talking about that today?
Yeah, I mean, invariably, I think people like me have a job. We exist because it's tough. It can be tough to grow an agency. An agency is a service-based business, and a service-based business is highly labor-intensive. We rely on people, all right? And as our business grows, we've become more and more dependent on those people, and margins shrink. And it's often the agency owner, the leader, that ends up taking the hit. They end up reducing their salary, or they don't pay themselves for a month or something like that, because of the promise of the future payoff, right? Yeah. We say to ourselves, I'm doing something that I love, I'm passionate about it, I'm coding, or I'm delivering PPC or design a video, whatever the thing is, and I'm growing the business and it's all going awesome. Money's tight, but at some point in the future, I'm gonna be paid a big dividend and a payout. And the money that we're making is a consequence of that future payout. It doesn't have to be that way though, right? It doesn't. We don't have to make no money as we grow. It is very possible for the business to make a margin. And I advocate that actually we should. We have given up working for somebody else. We used to have a job, we got paid for our time, we got a salary. We've now set up a business to give ourselves financial freedom and time freedom. And more often than not, that's not the case. We're working longer hours, we're not getting paid as much as we used to when we used to have a job. And the business isn't making huge amounts of profits. We're actually a little bit worse off, though, we're doing something that we enjoy.
Yeah.
A business, which is what we find ourselves running, should generate value in excess of its costs, right? I get paid a salary as a CEO, get a good salary. The business generates a ton of money, hopefully, and that money can go to me, or it can go back into the business to reinvest. But the problem is, somewhere along the way, and many small agencies in particular, let's say from 6 to 30 headcount, can find themselves with no money left over at the end of the day. Pay ourselves for salary, or perhaps we're sacrificing a salary, we get no money left. And we don't know where to look. We're like, what do we look at within the business? What's going wrong? That's meaning that I'm having to sacrifice all this salary.
Yeah.
What's the one thing I should keep an eye on? What's the one KPI we should track? And it's gross margins. That is the one thing. If we're looking for one number to look at within the business, there's tons of KPIs we could track. Start with your gross margins. And the gross margin is, this is back of a fag packet accountancy calculation. It's money in, the revenue that we're receiving for the service that we deliver, which is an important point, the service that we deliver. It's not additional commissions or rebates or media spend. It's, hey, Mr. Client, thank you for the money. You're giving us this money and we're delivering a service for you, and that service is delivered for our people. So it's money in minus the direct costs out, which is salaries and contractor fees. Right. And that's all right. Many agencies find themselves in a position where the gross margins are too low. We're not marking up our services enough, particularly services like web development, right? Because we over deliver. We underestimate, we have bugs, we over deliver, and we look at how much we sold a website for, let's call it $10,000. How much did it actually cost us to deliver it? Probably $8, $9, or in some cases $15,000. Right? The margins are too slim. Yeah. We make not enough gross margin. There's not then enough money to cover the overheads, the rest of the costs in the business. There's certainly not enough money then to reinvest back into the business or to pay ourselves a dividend.
Yeah, and I think one thing that you didn't mention there, which is another reason that we tend to, as agency owners, get into that hole and dig ourselves that hole, is because of competition. I mean, more and more I speak to agency owners and they're like, dude, I have to sell a website at $5,000 because my competitors are selling it at $7,000. You're killing each other. You're slitting each other's throats in a way, and it's not a way to run a business. And that brings in a whole other suitcase of other problems, like shitty clients who take us for granted because they're not paying us what we should be getting paid, and then they just want the world, and we land up overworked. And as you say, then it just becomes this rat race, this wheel that we run on, we cannot get off of. And I think your point about, which was so interesting, and I think, if anybody's watching this and I think a lot of the people in the community can relate to this, is you talked about, we get into an agency, we start running an agency because we love something, we're passionate about it, we're good at it, we're a great graphic designer, web designer, we love SEO, we love being analytical. We're what I like to call accidental entrepreneurs. Like, we didn't anticipate running an agency. It's not what we wanted to do. We just wanted to do SEO, and the next thing we knew, we had a bunch of clients, we needed some help, so maybe employed a few people, and the next thing we know, we've got this business and people who are relying on us for an income. And we've now got to be thinking about financial stuff like revenue and gross margin and things like that, and we're not necessarily often ready for that. So I think it's a top key thing to keep an eye on. If there are agency owners out there who are, I mean, as you say, I think the key thing that you mentioned to me before we started as well, but you mentioned here, is if you're going to start tracking one thing, it's gross margin. Yeah. Because that is, I'm guessing the reason you bring that up, and I know not from my world or from the world of the agencies that I help, it's because it's the one thing that throttles you is staff costs. Salary, payroll. Yeah. Is that the reason? It's just because it's just the one thing that's going to bring you down, it's going to anchor you down.
Yeah. And back to your point about competition, we price things based on what the market's demanding, and when we're in a middle market, I've got to sell a website for $5,000. That's because we have no niche positioning. We're not necessarily an expert. We're competing against the other 40,000 web development agencies out there the other day, and the 10 new agencies that have been set up by students who have left university and are now coding in their bedroom, right? Yeah. So market forces make us put our price down, and we suffer it. And we need to some really, really broad benchmarks. All right, service-based business, ideally aim for 50%. All right, at a minimum. All right, if you're at 50%. Aim for 60, 65. Right? Certain services are easier to deliver at that level of gross margin. PPC, the more process oriented, something that you can develop a simple process around, can deliver a higher gross margin. Things that you can automate more easily will deliver a higher gross margin. So if you're at 50%, and by 50%, I mean effectively you're doubling your cost. If it costs you £200 a day to deliver, you're charging 400, delivers a 50% gross margin. But if you're at 50, aim for 60. You can certainly do 60% on some services. But if you're not at 50, if you're at 35, or again, some web development agencies might be doing 10 or 15%, think about how you can get to 50. Think about how you can get to 35% first. We need to create that breathing space. to go and pay the overheads and to pay ourselves a dividend at the end of the day. But 50%, which is effectively doubling your costs, which gives, as another point there, be absolutely clear on what your costs are.
Yeah. There's a bunch of there's actually two things there. I mean, the one thing that I'm tempted to jump in here and say, and I mean, sorry for the sales pitch here, but this is exactly where I sit as a resource partner. Guys, if you struggle this, and that's why I was so excited when Janusz said, "Hey, let's talk gross margin." I'm like, mate, that's my game, because I have agencies say my gross margin is this. Get a reliable resource partner who can deliver wholesale rates to you, and you bring your gross margin down immensely. All of your staff costs you can bring down immensely. So if you need support, obviously we're around. With that in mind is one of the things that we always get asked as a resource partner, and this is for whether you use us as a resource partner or you're using another white label wholesaler, or you're using even a Fiverr employee or anything like that. We always get asked when we discuss pricing with the agency, agencies will come, or a new agency will sign up with us and say, thanks for the price list. By the way, what should we charge our clients? Now, that's an impossible question for us to answer, because one day we're talking to an agency in Canada, the next day we're talking to an agency in New Zealand. The one is 5 employees, the one is 50 employees. It's impossible for us to, and we don't prescribe that. And I would be wary, I think, of any white labeler who does prescribe it, because it's not their business, it's your business. But we always say, and I think to Janusz's point here is, it's not a prescription at all. But we say you should be putting about 100% markup on our prices. Again, that is, how long is a piece of string, and what kind of business and all that are you running?
Completely agree.
You need to be intimate with your own business. But 100%, if we're sending you a blog, for example, our blog of $41, or $41 is about 23 pounds or 24 pounds a blog, you should be setting that off at $80. That's giving you that space, that margin to breathe, even though you're not writing the blog yourself, you're literally just performing a QA role in it. It gives you that space to play, and that's just from a simple blog perspective.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's a really simple equation, this gross margin thing. Your gross margin is, money in minus money out. Look at your services. Let's say you're a more integrated agency. You might have high performing services. You might be doing 60%, 65% on your PPC, 55% on your SEO. Then you look at your web development and it's 10% breaking even, loss making. All right. Fix that from a gross margin perspective, because it's dragging the other two highly profitable services down, or don't do it anymore.
Exactly.
Team, and you go, hey, it's impossible for us who can deliver a website for $5,000 if you're building and make margin on it. If you're selling it for $5,000, you've got to deliver it for $2,500, which has got to cover front end, back end, UX, design, strategy, bugs, QA, all that kind of stuff. Who can do that for $2,500? If you can't do it internally, what can you do to deliver it at 50%? Outsource it, find a partner, or stop doing the service, because it's pulling the other stuff down.
Yeah, and you've also nailed it's so interesting that a conversation about something financial like gross margin can bring up other things. You've nailed another big advisory for agencies as well. Don't be afraid to say you're stopping providing a service if it doesn't make sense to you. If it's bringing the rest of your business down, don't be afraid to stop offering it, because it's killing you. If it's affecting your profitability, or even your ability to make a profit or to pay yourself a salary. Why do you feel this necessity to accommodate clients who you could get it executed elsewhere, do it in another way? Don't do services that don't make sense to you if it's something that's killing your business.
You know what? I'm going to borrow. There's a chap called David C. Baker based in the States who I've interviewed a couple of times. He's an agency guru who runs an M&A advisory. Super nice guy. Has literally written the book on like niche positioning your agency. He has this model. I'm going to borrow from him. I wish it was mine, but it's so true. All right. Yeah. Ask yourself if you want a job, a hobby, or a business. I've done the job and the business thing already. A job pays your salary in exchange of your time. All right. So look at how much you're getting paid right now and what your business is doing. Do you want a job? Do you want to turn up, do 37.5 hours a week, get paid a salary, live a nice life and work for somebody else? Do you want a business, and a business generates value in excess of its costs and might be worth something at a future point via exit?
Yeah.
Or do you want a hobby, right? And a hobby, and this is where a lot of agency owners find themselves, what you've just described there, we're having a service that's dragging the business down. I play golf, right? a hobby costs me money in exchange for doing something that I love.
Yeah.
Right? I love playing golf and I pay money to do it. And we look at a lot of agency owners and they're getting paid less than we could be if we work for somebody else. Yeah. Our business isn't generating value in excess of its costs, but I'm doing something that I enjoy. I'm coding, all right? If you are comfortable having a hobby, all right, coding, but paying to do it, are you getting paid less than you would in the open market? That is totally cool. Who are we to say, you know, you work your own hours and you get paid less than you can in the open market. That is absolutely cool. But if you don't want a hobby, if you want a business, if you actually want a business that generates value in excess of its costs, sack the services. You can't deliver them at 50% gross margin. Don't do them anymore. That's what a business is all about.
Yeah, completely. And that's a grown-up decision. You know, you're making a business owner's decision there. You're not, I think it's a beautiful way to put it. It's funny when you talk about a hobby, because it is. I mean, a lot of us we're passionate about copywriting, we're passionate about web design. There may even have been how we got started in our agency, but if that service starts to drag you down and it no longer makes sense financially, if you've now got people who are relying on you for an income and you want to, as you say, you're building your agency for an exit strategy at some stage, you know, make the grown-up decision and amputate what doesn't make sense, or get help. You know, you can rely on a resource partner or whatever it is. There's actually so much we can talk about, but I know we like to keep these short. There's one other thing that I think is worth mentioning as well here is effective rate, that I think a lot of digital agency owners don't know about or get right. Here's, I'm sure, Janusz, you've probably got a few free resources that we can share as well, particularly on this. I know that we do as well. And guys, what I'll do is if anybody's interested, if you watch us and you're interested, please shoot a comment down below. We've got a bunch of resources. The one resource talks about effective rate, and effective rate is essentially what a lot of people in this world don't know about themselves. What is your effective rate? What is your salary, or what are you worth per hour in your day? If you take a day off work or an hour off work and go for a run, what is that costing you as a human being? What is your hourly rate worth? If someone asks for half an hour meeting with you, what does that cost you? And that comes after gross margin. Obviously, once you've now paid your contractors and your employees, what do you want to pay yourself? You should know that number as well. So if you need help with that, hit a comment down below. We've got a nice little document that will help you work that out. We've also got a pricing strategy document which we can share. I'm sure Janusz has got some stuff that he can share. And also just a heads up for our UK agencies, if anyone's interested, we've recently we're in the talks of making a partnership with a really good actuary in the UK. This happened completely by mistake. And it's funny, this conversation's come up now because I get to plug this a little bit now, but made a connection with a really good actuary. His name's Julian, and we're hoping to get it going in the next couple of weeks. But if you need bookkeeping or actuarial or accounting advice, anything that's beyond my understanding, stuff that I just, you get a professional in to help you out with. Please, if you're in the UK and you need that help, please get in touch. We can connect you with a really good person who can help you out. He's also got some resources for free if you want, talking about profitability and getting profitable in your agency and how to set up a proper agency. But the people you're talking to should have already set up their agencies as best as possible.
It's a really good point. If you don't know your gross margins right now for your agency and you have an accountant, they're not doing a good enough job for you.
100%.
Go and you go to them and say, what are our gross margins? And they'll say, you tell me. And if they're not asking questions around, okay, what profit centers should we do this around? Are we doing it by service? Are we doing it by, by function? Segment your your revenue streams, attribute your direct costs or a percentage of, so if I run an agency and I'm still doing 30% of my time is spent doing client services, dealing with clients, then I'm going to put 30% of my salary into that kind of direct cost equation. So I can see actually how much it's costing us to deliver that service for a client. But if you don't know your gross margin, point number one, go speak to your accountant, figure it out. Give yourself 6 months to fix it. If you can't fix it, sack the service. If you can't fix the client and make them, if that client you can't deliver at 50% gross margin, sack the client. If this employee won't deliver your service at 50% gross margin because they take too long, sack the employee.
And I love, just to end off here, I love the fact that you've given a finite number, the concrete number. You said 50%, because too many people, when they're giving advice or tips in any world, trading, agency life, business, they tend to like beat around the bush and talk a bit of shit here and there. And they never really, you've said 50%, which is a fantastic thing because it's helpful to have a real finite number that agencies can know. They're not walking away from this conversation going, yeah, but you didn't really tell me what I should go for. You said 50%. It's not 50%. Be brutal.
That's the bare minimum. I think the point is, if you're not making money, look at your gross margins and aim for 50%. All right, get there first. If you're at 50 and you're going, oh, we're doing better than that, great. Get to 66. Between 66 and 72 is where the pot of gold lies. If you can get there, that's an awesome place.
Amazing. Fantastic advice. Janusz, this has been so practical, bro. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Always a pleasure, Stephen. Take care.
We'll chat again soon.
See you soon.